But we're ready to go.
We've been
I'm
ready.
sorry.
And I'm Rachel.
You're not supposed to do it with vibrato.
Sorry. You always try to control how I do it. You do it without vibrato.
And this is still tell me this.
This is not a trip, this is how I feel. Pop champagne, I'ma do it for the thrill. Escape with me, I'm saying maybe we could take off and then land on a jet ski. Baby, I hold it tight, top shelf with it.
Were you gonna say because you wanted me to talk about last episode?
Oh, yeah.
So interview me.
So
No, I'm just kidding.
So last episode was a little different for you. It may not show up for everybody else, but your auntie was here and she could tell.
She like clocked it.
She clocked it just like that.
The funny thing is like probably not a soul will even realize because they don't know me personally.
Right.
Yeah.
And she clocked you because, she's aware of those things because of what she does. So tell us about how you were feeling last episode.
Please,
and
you're
why.
giving TV talk show host. No, I was feeling really anxious because the environment was just a lot different. And I just was fidgeting so much. When I look back on the footage, I'm literally like this, doing things that I never even do. I always will like twirl my hair or do something that's like self-soothing. I'm like a self-soother, but I was doing 20 million different things. And when Mom, I literally was watching me, I said, I'm watching myself disassociate. There would be times, that's why part of why I was like, I don't even know about this episode because part of it I didn't hear the episode.
Yeah, like she didn't even want to post this episode.
Yeah,
like
last episode, the one that's
And of course, you
Last
add on
episode,
top of that,
technically.
you were super tired already. So that night you were just like, Mom, oh my gosh, this episode. And I was like feeling really good about the episode.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. There are times
and I hated it.
we try to, we have a natural flow. But
Yeah.
I thought because of the fatigue from both of us, we were
I did
pushing
not
through.
hear half of it. There were times where I was looking at my face. I said, that's where I clocked out. There was like 10 different times.
You just
'Cause,
went,
Mom, I'm not even kidding you. There'll be times, and you'll hear in the podcast, I'm like, yeah, right. I'm not hearing anything you're saying. None of it.
You didn't want to show it anymore. And I'm like, Shari, there were some really important things
Yeah.
that were in there that I think people need to hear, and you didn't want to show it. So like, I think it's important to recognize the fact that sometimes you're in situations that may not be most comfortable. We're not talking about unsafe.
Right.
I want to be clear on that. You're in an unsafe situation. You got to get out.
Right.
But
this was like, I was safe. I was fine.
speak to why it's uncomfortable for you, for the people.
So I don't, when I film content, my experience and what I'm used to is it just being me. Like there's nobody else around. It's just like me and a camera, which some people tend to like find weird. They're like, how do I talk to a camera where no one's there? I'm really comfortable doing that. She's more of like used to public speaking in front of people.
Yeah.
So
that's what I do. I come alive when I speak in front of people.
Yeah.
So ironically, when I started filming on a regular, talking to a phone was weird for me.
Yeah. And me,
now
I'm like,
better
woo!
with it. And yeah, so Shari's introverted, believe it or not. A lot of people are shocked by that.
No one believes
She's
it at first.
introverted, but she's not shy. So if she's in a
Yes.
room and the energy right, the vibe is right, even if the energy's not right, vibe's right, Shari's gonna find a way to like break the.
I'll push through.
She'll push through. She'll talk. You'll never know that she was nervous.
You would
or
never
what
know a
have you.
thing. And then we'll get in the car and I'll be like, yeah, Mom, I hated that.
And I want y'all to drop in the comments, like, could
Yeah.
you tell? But that also just has to do with how you are as an individual. And we've
Yeah.
talked about that before. Like when something's not right, it's
Yeah.
very hard for you. And you felt the type of way because you didn't feel as authentic.
Yeah, the way I described it, I just felt like I could see like parts of my personality that I was like locking away in boxes that just was not coming out. And I was trying to, I kept trying to like let it come out and it just wasn't. And then when I would try and it wouldn't come out, that's when my hearing would go away and I'm just not hearing a thing you're saying. And I'm here talking about some yeah.
But you
not
know what?
hearing a
I rode
thing.
right through that.
Yeah, you didn't.
You was right, but
you just kept it going, but I was just like, oh, whatever. But it had to get posted anyway. I'm like, because the way I think I had told you this, I'm like, in a month, it's not even gonna matter. So we'll just have to post
and
it.
at the end of the day, you guys you have to see real. And so we just kind of wanted to give you guys a little insight on like,
Yeah,
this was one of those moments in life. Things might be a little uncomfortable, but sometimes you got to lean into it
yeah.
and push through it.
Because I was feeling the type of way. Literally afterwards, I said, yeah, I hated that. Like after,
I'm looking like,
I said, I hated every second. I think it was bad. Like,
yeah. And oh wait, here's the biggie, and then we can move on. I said sometimes when you do things, or whether you're called to do something or you're just doing it, it's not for you. It's for somebody else. So even though she felt uncomfortable, we're hoping that in that last episode 5, episode 5, we're hoping that really somebody gets something from that.
I'm like, it could be
Hopefully,
for somebody.
it could be for somebody. But community.
Yes, this has been a big thing that I've been talking about lately because, well, one, I've already have been thinking about this, but I've been seeing more people talk about it, and every time I hear something about it, I'm like, literally, yes. I feel like community is dead. Community is dying, and I feel like it's due to multiple things actually. Because last night I said, let me not like try to simplify it to one issue. Like most things are nuanced anyway, but I feel like one, late stage capitalism for sure. Like capitalism kills creativity, and it's certainly killing community too. Hyper individualism, these phones, like, and I feel like I sound like an old head, but it's like,
explain to them when you say community is dead, like you gave the things that you think influence that, but explain to them, what do you mean by that?
Like our interactions with people on a day to day, I feel like they're not as strong as like, honestly, Gen X. I feel like Gen X was so good at community. And I mean, I can't really speak for millennials. I'm like Gen Z, like the second oldest Gen Z, but what I'm learning is like when I look at you, like growing up and stuff, you had a village of people. I'm not seeing that many villages anymore.
Right.
Like there were people you could go to, people you could talk to, people that were so like influential, like in our lives and stuff. And I'm just not, this girl made a TikTok and she said it best. She was like, everybody wants a village. Nobody wants to be a villager. I'm like, she is so right. And she was talking about her mom was like the best. Like when you want to talk about somebody who was good at having a village, it was her. She said she would come home for college. Immediately there's a round robin of people coming to their door. Oh, your mom mentioned you needed skis. Here are some da-da-da-da. And she's the
skis
same.
for college?
But like I'm just
crazy.
talking about like random stuff.
Yeah.
Oh, your mom mentioned this, da-da-da. She could be talking to her mom. She's like, yeah, I'm going to pick up so-and-so's cousin from the airport tomorrow.
Right.
Like just having people in your life. And I feel like slowly but sure, like, for example, who's hosting the barbecues anymore? Like,
you know, it's funny you said that because you're like, you feel like you don't have the village because the village has now become digital. Like when I had to do research when I was speaking to college professors and just talking about being effective as an educator and what we're dealing with now. When you think about it, like you said, you're an older Gen Z, right? Gen Alpha now is like, they're completely digital citizens, but you guys were like the first digital citizens.
Yeah,
and
like
so,
coming into it.
As I was reflecting on what we were talking about this morning, I'm like, wow, by the time smartphones really came about, I had already graduated from high school, college, married, 2 children. Y'all were teenagers.
That's crazy.
So I lived a whole life.
Yeah, outside of all of that.
Outside of all we had cell phones, but you know, we couldn't get on the internet and things of that nature. So you just start to, I mean, your community is your physical community. Yes, you can talk on the phone, but if you really want to get that interaction, girl, what's going on? Da-da-da. Now we're talking about what's going on Instagram. We're talking about what's going on TikTok. So to me, it became like a natural sacrifice. Like it's like you're sacrificing the physical, let's get together, because now you kind of get this false sense of like, you know, people, you're seeing what they're doing.
It feels like so much engagement.
But something is still missing.
Something is still missing.
That's
and I'm
the
like,
thing.
Really, it feels like a lot of engagement, but I'm like, no, a lot of us are just like overstimulated. That's why so many people's attention spans are so short now. Agree. It's like, that's too much media. That's actually too much interaction.
I agree.
I don't think we were ever meant to know so much about so many people.
Every little thing.
I don't think we were ever meant to see this many people even.
I think COVID exacerbated it.
Oh, for sure.
Especially for people in my generation, because, you know, like I said, came from the generation where we had community. And I still have community, but to be able to like hunker down and you're in your place and you're like, you know what? I really don't have to go anywhere. I can sit here.
Like comfortability.
I could still know what's going on with people. You're seeing now you got that FOMO that can creep up on you. Like, man, I wish I would have gone to that dinner party last night. But oh well, you know, so it's easier to slide into that.
And you don't ever have to be annoyed. Like when you're like kind of like by yourself. Ooh, I saw another video. It was
the power to clock out. You can just clock out from it.
I saw another video and I was like, she was like, to be in a community is to be annoyed sometimes. I'm like, that is so true. And I think getting used to not being annoyed by stuff, it just kind of like takes you out of it. Like you start to get real. And I know this because this is like me. Like I'm like actually speaking to me as well too. People start to get used to that, just like, also convenience as well.
Yeah, it's a hugely convenient. But I want, go ahead, and then I'll tell you what I was going to say.
Because, like, for example, when it comes to convenience, going to the airport, you can just call an Uber to the airport.
Right.
I feel like a while ago, before Uber was a thing, it's like, I'm going to call my friend to come take me to the airport. Like, it seems so small, but I feel like that's how you build community. Case in point, Sakina had to go somewhere for work. She had to travel for work. And she was going to get a hotel, and her husband was talking. He was like, you have family that like lives there.
Right.
And she's like, well, I don't know. She ended up connecting with some of her family, like are so close now. And I'm like, wow, it's little stuff like that. And I feel like, oh my gosh, when I came over yesterday and Auntie Keisha was there, I'm like, Auntie Keisha could have easily have come here and like stayed in a hotel or whatever, but she's like, I'm going to go stay at my friend's house. You know what I mean?
For sure.
Like, I'm just not seeing it like as much. And I'm like talking about me too.
Yeah, and there was a statement you just made. You were like, being in community is annoying. Is that what you said?
It's being annoyed sometimes.
It's being
sometimes
annoyed.
You will be annoyed.
But I also think that avoiding community kind of can keep your growth back.
1,000%.
When you're in community, I'm not going to say forced, but you're in spaces where people have different personalities. You're going to deal with that uncle who's like kind of getting on your nerves.
Yeah.
Or, your father's friend who comes around and he's really loud. But like it forces you to live in a world that this is how life is. You got to know how to make adjustments, and you got to know how to talk to people, interact with people. So I think we have to be careful with that community piece, because you can easily kind of like I'm not going to say shrink down like you're less of a person, but what's the word I'm looking for? It never tests the parts of you that might need to be tested to be able to have tolerance for people. That's what it is. That's what I'm getting at. It's like you kind of lose some tolerance because you're like, you know what?
I could just go home.
I can just go home because I don't got time for this.
Yeah, and it's like, if you're only comfortable always, what's ever really changing?
Oh,
you know what
listen.
I mean? Like, I think what also has pushed it, and we kind of talked about this in the last episode, people have started to like weaponize therapy language.
This is true.
And use it. And I think we have to like be able to differentiate between setting boundaries and completely like dismissing everything. I feel like there's like nuance. I feel like the pendulum has swung all the way to the left.
So let's talk about that. Unpack that. Yeah. There goes that language. Let's unpack that.
Yes, because it doesn't have to be either one or the other. So I think what started to happen was people were like, well, no, I have to set a boundary, and I'm not going to be able to do this. I don't have the capacity to do this right now. And it's like, that is true in a lot of cases, but it can't be for every single thing. I think, no, you don't want to deplete yourself. No, you don't want to spread yourself too thin, because then you're not good for anybody or to yourself. You do have to make sure that you're good first, but it turned into never pouring back into the other side.
Right. Come on.
And it's like, oh my gosh, this girl said something. I'm trying to remember. The whole like, you don't know anybody, anything, that phrase went way too far. Like I saw another video, child. I've been seeing all the videos, child. This girl was like, you actually do owe people stuff. You actually do owe your community. You are a community member. And that's another thing. I'm like, if you don't have a community, you are not ready to stand up against anything. Like if something was ready to come against us,
that's right.
We are like not that united.
Right.
You know
what I mean?
man
is an island, really. I mean, you can try to be, but I think as
it's
human
not
beings,
good. Humans are like social by nature.
And I think we were meant to be pourers, because everybody has like certain gifts and things about themselves that you were meant for other people to be benefiting from it.
You're meant to be supporting each other.
That's right.
Case in point, because we always still talk about it to this day. And me and Sydney just had this conversation. Part of why we had such a good childhood is because you had the best village. And I'm that works. Like when you have so many different,
have a bomb village.
Yes. When you have so many different people and perspectives, like I love the idea, even though I ain't have no kids, I love the idea of if I did, I would have to raise them like how you kind of raised us. I'm like, you had us around Auntie Keisha, who also had 2 kids, so now we're cool with them. Auntie Shirley, who also had 2 kids. Auntie Trish, who also had 2 kids. Like
Auntie Phyllis.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Even though Deani was feeding us the popcorn.
We're not going to talk about the popcorn. We're not going to talk about the popcorn for breakfast, show.
But we were just always around so much. Whenever I talk about it as an adult, I call it third family. I'm like, oh, my third family, third family. Because you're talking about we're together every single weekend. You're talking about we're at the Boys and Girls Club and you're like, Auntie Keisha's going to pick you up today.
Right. Or I'm doing drop off. She's doing pickup.
Yes. We were always together and doing something and supporting. We have something, everybody's showing up. And I feel like that's so important to like development. And I'm not seeing it as much. people will joke online, and I still find this funny. They'd be like, oh my gosh, like we're really the new adults. I'm like, yeah, we are. So we have to act like it.
Let's step up.
Like we really have to be, what were our parents doing? Not that we have to like replicate, but like I said, who's hosting the barbecues? I'll see people say that online sometimes, and I'm like, host a barbecue.
Right.
Have a dinner.
Everybody's waiting for somebody else to do
something.
it. And at the end of the day, you have to take initiative for the community you want to create.
You won't have those memories if you don't make them.
You won't have them
You're
if
at
you
that
don't make them.
age. Oh my gosh, another thing. Sorry, I'm just like, this
No,
is
go,
like
girl, get it out, honey. Purge,
thinking about
purge.
this. Every time Christmas rolls around, everybody that's like around my age, they're like, Christmas is not the same, and oh my gosh, and da da da. And now part of that is due to nostalgia. Nostalgia will make you feel even stronger
It'll
about
get you
something
caught up.
than it actually could have been. And yes, when you're a kid, things feel different. You don't know certain things, so you are a little bit happier because you're just like blissfully unaware. But I'm like, the reason why y'all don't feel like it feels like Christmas is because you're not making it feel like Christmas.
Come on.
Welcome to figuring out that the reason it felt like Christmas is because your parents made it seem that way. It's up to you to create your own experience.
That's right.
Every Christmas, to me, is feeling like Christmas because I'm decorating music's on, cookies in the oven, da, 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 da. Who wants to come and have a Christmas sleepover? Who wants to come? I'm like, let me host Christmas dinner. You have to like do stuff now. And I feel like sometimes, like and I'm about to be like, my generation is like trash. No. I love my generation. But I feel like sometimes we're like missing the piece that it's up to you.
That's right.
You have to do something.
Be the change. Like it sounds crazy.
Literally,
but like,
it sounds cliche, but like, be the change you want to see, girl.
Be the change you want to see. If you want it to be like
happen.
that, then you have to bring it. You know,
make some shake. Then like come
make
on,
something
like
shake.
Start doing it because literally our parents were just doing it.
And here's what's so interesting. Like as I just think, I'm just fascinated with generations. I just think about. Yes, we talked about the influences of, just social media and people on their phones, what have you. But it's like, what is it about, like, whether it be Gen Z or the end of millennials that feel like, I'm really an adult? Like, them stepping into their adulthood. Like, what is the thing?
I think part of it is late stage capitalism, for sure. Like the idea that a lot of us grew up with is like very American dream. You go to college and then this happens and then you get this job and you're fine and you live and whatever. The economy is so drastically different than I think a lot of us thought it was gonna be. I think we're like exhausted and we're like, oh, this is what adulthood is like. Like it's shocking almost. A lot of us cannot like afford houses. A lot of the things that we thought was going to happen when we got older are so far out of reach because things are so different. And part of when I was saying like capitalism kills community, a lot of people have to prioritize work so much more now because everything's so much more expensive. There are so many other concerns you have to take care of that you almost have to put it first. And I'm like, I'm not trying to be you or whatever, but I'm like, it weakens people. It's by design. Like, when you have to only focus on work and like money has to be the focus, you do have to pull away from people and you start having to prioritize that. You don't have those interactions. You're not feeling like as community oriented as you should. Case in point, like when a lot of people graduate college, they have like post-grad depression. I definitely got it. Yeah. And I'm like, the reason why a lot of us were so happy in college is because it is the best example of community. Like it's walkable. All your friends are a minute away. And it's like, not that you couldn't have community outside of college, because you certainly can, or just probably take more effort, but it is the most easily accessible. Even when I lived off campus, my friends are in my apartment complex. I'm walking to your room.
Right.
We're going to get together for dinner. Oh, this person's apartment complex is 2 minutes away. Everything is so close. So you go from experiencing like great community.
Oh, for sure.
All the time. We were always having dinners, doing things.
Proximity makes a difference.
To leaving, I have to take this job here. I have to now move to this state. I have to take this job here. I have to work even longer hours. I now have to get more jobs because even this job right here is not even paying me enough. A job that should have paid you enough maybe 15 years ago now is not enough. I have to get more jobs now. I'm spending less time with people now. I'm more sad now. Like all that, I feel like it just makes it worse and worse.
And a lot of what you said makes sense, but like I'm thinking like I'm Gen X, right? And even I'm thinking about in my generation, we still had to be like, we got to get a job. Some people had more than one job. But I also think there's a piece where, how I was big with y'all, like, even when it came to your doctor's appointments, get on the phone, make a call, make the appointment. And you're like, what am I going to say? Write it down. What are the things you need to know? But Mom, I don't want to do that. Like y'all were very resistant to doing that.
Yeah.
And I made you do it. But here's what you know this about me. I feel like oftentimes there are missed opportunities because of how your generation kind of moves. Like not taking the initiative to speak to someone, have the conversation. And in having conversations, that's when you get the humanness of people. You connect.
You do.
Next thing you know, you have a lot in common with the person. Remember, I forgot where I was flying back from. And me and this lady are walking through the airport. She has long, curly gray hair. And I have this short hair. And
you told me
she's
about
looking
that.
at me. I'm looking at her. And she's like, oh, I love your hair. I was like, I love yours too. We got to talking. She lives in Boston. Come to find out she's a professor at MIT. And she's Haitian and I'm Haitian. Like, we're exchanging Instagram information.
Yeah.
Honestly, she could have not said a word to me. And I could have just kept it at, I like your hair too, and kept it moving.
Or not even said anything.
Or not said anything at all. I could have just said
anything.
thank you and kept it moving because I was trying to get to my gate.
Yeah.
But we for a good 5-10 minutes there had a conversation. It felt so good.
Yeah.
Like I didn't know her from a can of paint, but she's my Instagram friend. I follow her. We,
y'all may
like
even get together.
We may even get together. So I think that's an important part of like community.
Yes. I do want to say though, I want to circle back to something you had said when you were like, your generation had to get jobs too. I do want to differentiate though.
Okay.
The cost of living is like even more insane.
I agree.
Than it was then.
I agree.
Like they say it's multiplied like so far past how wages have gone.
That's the thing. I don't have the cost comparison, but like when I was working at McDonald's I got that job in 1985. I was making $3.25 an hour. And then the managers were making $4.50 an hour.
Yeah.
And when we got raises, they were 5 and 10 cent raises.
Yes.
And said, yes, houses were less than, but we got paid less than. Like I said, I would have to do a deep dive into like the cost comparison because I agree with you. Things are super expensive and I'm not in your generation.
Yeah, because that is the thing. Things did like wages were less and things costed less. But what they found is that as time has gone on, at a certain point, wages stopped going up, but the cost of living kept going up. So
I believe that.
There is like a major difference now.
But
where jobs that like in the past people were able to have like this certain job and it should get you by, people could have those same jobs now and you have to get second and third job because they're still scraping when they shouldn't be.
Here's a thing though, and I don't know if you can speak to this, but I remember because of the way you guys were raised, it's not like we all had money. Like we were working people, we did what we had to do. But
you need to tighten it if you're raising it.
But by the time, hold on, that's
the big part on the other side.
The question is, why does it keep loosening? With the thing is, I think because, when you think about struggle, like, our parents, how they struggled, every generation generally is trying to make it better for the next generation, right? So when I think about how you grew up, and I told you like we were on food stamps for a little while, the way we lived, it was just very different. No, I never missed a meal, but you guys had some luxuries that I did not have,
for sure,
right?
Yeah.
And so I noticed a stark difference when you're looking for apartments, when, my friends' kids are looking for apartments, it's leveled up. Like many of us had to start like humble beginnings where y'all might see it and be like, oh no, I ain't gonna live here.
Here's the tea,
I wouldn't live here. So it's like already like leveled up.
Here's the tea though. The humble beginnings are now out of reach too. Like that's what I mean. Like even if you go find like an apartment and it's like run down, there's still like $2,000 a month.
Well, especially in Atlanta.
Yes.
I mean, but I think that, with where you are.
Now it's getting to that point where like.
Yeah, it's astronomical, especially in Atlanta.
So that's what I mean by like the capitalism gets worse and worse and worse every year and things get more and more expensive and it's outpacing how much people can earn and take in and it's forcing people to have more jobs and spend less time with their families. Like when I hear of like people, for example, like being a teacher, even though like teachers have always needed to be making more money. Like I'm pretty sure people were teachers and they struggled before, but I'm seeing so many teachers now being like, I have 3 more jobs outside. Like what?
Yeah, they have like online jobs that
Yes.
They DoorDash, they Uber.
And I feel like you should not, if you have a career that when you're a kid and they say, oh, you find this career and you should be setting, you should be fine, where in the past people were and now they're not, like, is nobody freaking out? That's the wildest thing I've ever heard.
That's true.
Like, you could have a solid career now and it still won't be enough.
It still won't be enough.
To even get you a humble beginnings. That's what I mean by, like, that's the difference.
This is true.
Like,
this is true.
even humble beginnings are out of reach. If we get to the point where humble beginnings are out of reach, like, huh?
What were you saying, Deani?
What?
Because of the way that we grew up, because of the community, and because it almost seems like we're on this weird island that doesn't exist.
Yeah, it did feel like that.
Do you feel like that's kind of like an inhibitor for you to like start your own family, and because
like, in what way? Say more about that. I like what I'm hearing.
You would almost have to kind of recreate that, you know what I mean? Or
I see what you're saying. You know what it has done? It raised my standard more so. Like, I have
what that should look like.
Yes. If anything, it was modeled to me beautifully.
Aww.
So as I know,
Thank
right?
you.
As I get older, because Mom, you know this, I've struggled with, that's been like a thing that I've talked about in therapy for a while.
You long for community.
Like, yes. And it's really interesting to me because you knowing me, you know, I can be very much like a loner and like want to be by myself. And when I moved in this house, I've had like 1 million guests since moving in.
Yes, you have.
And
surprisingly.
She literally, yes.
I didn't expect that.
You said, Shari, I didn't know, but I said, no, Mom. I
From
knew.
the first weekend you moved in, really?
The day that I moved in, Sydney and Kiara spent the night and I was ecstatic.
Right.
But it's like, as much as I do like my alone time, because that's one thing about that. When I'm here by myself, it never gave lonely. Okay. If I'm here by myself, it's by design. I like to have my
alone,
time.
but not lonely.
Never.
Right.
I recharge so much when I'm by myself, but I think it's so important to make sure that you like keep some interaction going. That's why when my friends, I'm like, do you want to spend the night? Do you want to come over? Do you want to have dinner? Like,
taking initiative.
Yes, I will always invite people over because that's what y'all did. And I saw how much of a positive impact that it had.
Yeah.
Like, we were always spending time with everyone, doing everything. This girl, and I think I told you this story. This girl on TikTok was like hosting a baby shower and so many people canceled on her day of. So many. And I was like, our parents did not do that. And not that everything has to be our parents, but I'm like, that's a problem to me. If so many people are canceling day of is like for emergencies. So you mean to tell me majority of the people invited had an emergency that day?
Yeah. And
like,
I think the reason why it also bothers you, because it almost seems like first of all, it's not considerate. Like, it's almost like you're not honoring the fact that like you said you would do something and now I can't even depend on you.
Like, I feel like your generation, y'all word was bond.
Your word was bond.
You know what I mean? I feel like sometimes with mine, it's like, day off comes, you know, I don't feel like going. And here's the thing, I be getting that sometimes where I'm like, I don't feel like going, but I'm like, just go anyway. Because it's not always about, I'm just feeling this way in this moment and let me just cater to how I feel.
It's bigger than that.
This person has invited me. This person is like a valuable person to me. I care about our relationship. I'm going to honor that over everything.
Right.
Now, of course, there are times when like, if you really can't make it, if something is really going on and you just you wouldn't be good to anybody at that point, cool. And that's where a boundary does come in. But like I said, the pendulum has swung so far away to where it's like, you don't need, people are getting to the point where they don't need like,
right. And when people don't show up, like every human being, I think, wants to feel affirmed. And it's like nobody showed, like, or hardly anybody showed up.
I know what community can look like. And it's like something to strive for. Like, I was talking to Sakina, me and Sakina and Felicia were just having this conversation. And it just made me want to be even more intentional about things. Like, when I kept Felicia's dog, she sent me and our other friend a message. She was like, thank you for being a part of like my village. Even though it seems small, it's her dog. But she's like, thank you for being a part of my village, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, I will, even if it's an inconvenience, I like committed to myself. I'm like, even though it's a treat for me to keep her dog, even if it was an inconvenience, I would still keep him because sometimes that's what it is. Like I made myself, I'm like, Shari, just don't ever forget that like, that is what this means. Like you have these two friends. I told Sakina, I'm like, I will keep, if you need me to keep your son, I will keep him. Cause she was even talking about how she might be like nervous to ask her grandma sometimes because she don't want to feel like a burden. People don't want to feel like a burden.
For sure.
And they don't want to feel embarrassed and they don't want to feel like they're like asking somebody for too much. And I immediately told her, I was like, I would keep him anytime because that's what this is. We are friends and that means I'm here for you. And if you need something and I can follow through, I will do it.
You're going to
for
be
you.
there.
And me and Sydney were talking about this too. I did see marriages, but I also saw like single motherhood, and a lot of people wouldn't agree, but I saw it in like a really beautiful light. Like I absolutely loved being raised by like so many women. You, Auntie Keisha, Auntie Shirley was married, but Uncle Shannon would travel. So sometimes it just
Right.
seemed like, oh my gosh, we have this like great, it made me have such a strong sense of self as a woman because you never
Mm.
centered men growing up. So I have an identity outside of that. I feel like a lot of women my age, unfortunately, and it really bugs me, are so male centered that they cannot see the forest for the trees. Instead of it being a part of their life, it becomes the reason. And you never made it the
Mm.
reason. Me
Interesting.
and Cindy talked about this. I said,
Wow.
Mom never gave that. Like, even though you were in a long distance relationship, I would forget. I would
Mm.
forget because you weren't even always like talking about him like my man, my man, my man all the time. It wasn't like a lot of kids sometimes will grow up and their moms may have boyfriends and they're like, well, she's with her boyfriend and she's doing this. So like, or they may
Mm-hmm.
forego like stuff with their kids for the man. You never did that. So I feel like like I said, I grew up having a really strong sense of self because I saw it in all the women around me. And y'all are married now, but in my formative years, like I got like so much of that and
Got it.
seeing like just how great. And it's like I could be in a relationship, I could get married, but outside of that, like I'm 100 because
Got it.
y'all were giving 100.
Wow, that's good to know. Well, thank
Yes.
you. And here's the thing for me, you know, when you guys were younger, like I just felt like they always had to be balanced because
Mhm.
it is easy, to be honest with you, once you have kids, it's easy to get just caught up in your kids because there's some people that are so kid-centered that they neglect themselves.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm thankful for my community. Let me shout out my girls.
Yes,
You know,
child.
they were the type that we would hold each other accountable.
Mhm.
You know, if it looked like, I'll never forget Stephanie one time.
I was about to bring that up.
I'll never forget
Auntie
Steph,
Steph.
Kindred. When y'all were little, by this point I was single, and your grandma was good at keeping y'all, but the way I was raised, I just wasn't I'll take the kids to grandma. I'll take the kids to grandma. Like that wasn't something I always wanted to do. That was something that I would reserve for, like, if I had to. Y'all were the ones that were always bringing up, can we go to grandma's? Can we
We
go to
always
grandma's?
asked you.
You always asked me.
Yeah,
The
you
times
never
I
pushed
asked
us
her is
off.
like, I got to go away for a work trip.
Mhm.
I got to go do this. I got to go do that. Can you keep them? I'll be gone from here to here. Because I
That was
never
the only
wanted
time.
her to feel like now she's raising my kids and I'm not, and I'm holding back. So there were times that, you know, being a single mom, even though, and I'm glad you guys got so much positive out of it, it was rough sometimes where it's like, I'm a teacher and, you know, I'm a mom and
Yeah.
I'm trying to hold it down. I'm trying to make sure we're still doing all the things to make sure that you guys still feel fulfilled. And there were times where, you know, my birthday might come up. What you doing for your birthday, girl? I don't know. And Stephanie be like, no, this is your birthday. It is special. We need to do this. Da, 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 da. Or she'd be like, I'm going to Nashville this weekend for a concert. Rachel, well, I don't know. Grandma just kept the girls last weekend. She's like, no excuses.
Yeah.
You're gonna get her. We're gonna go. You're gonna pack your bags.
Yes.
It was like she didn't make it easy for me to neglect me.
Yes. And you need
that. Like iron sharpens iron. And I
Mhm.
truly believe that's what we were for each other. We weren't.
Community.
Let me just speak to this too. When you have community, it can't just be a yes community.
Yeah.
It cannot just be yes, because when people truly love you, they're going to be no's. They're going to be, hold up, girl, you done lost your mind. Let's have a conversation.
Yes.
That's what I like in friends, because that means you care enough about me to protect me. Like, as far as like the direction that I'm going in is not a good direction. Now, they're not going to control me. It's up to me at the end of the day what I do.
They're real with you though.
They were that's my thing, be real. And they were very real with me. I am constantly evolving. I'm constantly in a state of growth and change. That's why I loved Michelle Obama's book, Becoming. She's like, I had to call it that.
You read that?
I started it on Audible, but I hear her talk about it a lot.
Yes.
And when I heard her talk about it, she said, hold up, you said you read that like you, like
no,
I don't
you know,
read.
so funny.
Hold on now.
I tell you.
Pump the
when I
brakes.
said,
Don't let me have to pull out
no,
my.
hold up. The minute I said you read that, I said, ooh, that sounded like shade. Like I said,
Yeah, that sounded
immediately,
like some shade.
And I was gonna say, I'm really not trying to like.
You're probably
talk to you
thinking
right
about,
now.
Mom, when you got time to read?
No, I
So
just in
that's
my
why
head
I
I
do
was like,
Audible.
I said she didn't tell me. Just
Yeah,
we be talking about everything. So
Yeah,
I'm
I
like,
downloaded her book, and so I started. I have so many books I've started, some I've finished.
Yeah.
But that's how I work it out, because I don't always have time to sit and turn pages, but I could certainly listen to a book while I'm getting ready, while I'm in the car, so on and so forth. But I love that becoming, because it's like so many times, and let me just speak to your generation and even the generation Alpha, there is this pressure, I think, to like, I need to arrive and get to
Yes.
this point.
At
Then
this age and
at
this
this age, at this
timeline.
time, and everything's gonna be all right. But here's the real gag. You're gonna get to the point where, let's say you do reach there, and it's still gonna start to not feel like enough.
Yes.
If you're always focused so much on the destination that you forget that it's about that journey. It's about the ebbs and flows and how you move through that and what you've learned from that, because that determines what that next is. Sometimes the things that you think that you wanted are not really the things that you needed.
Right. And Mom, you know this because I do that bad. We've had so many
Child, let me take a
conversations.
sip of water on that one.
I'm so bad with that. I move the goalposts all the time when it comes to like goals and things that I have.
Girl.
And then the minute I reach it, I'm not even kidding. Like the minute I reach
That's
it,
my
I
pet
move
peeve.
it 20 more feet.
That
I
is
move
my
it
pet peeve.
1,000 more feet down
Let me
the
speak
road.
to that.
And when hold on,
Go
let me
ahead, go
say-
ahead, go ahead.
And it's crazy. And sometimes I have to look at myself and be like, Shari, before any of this, if somebody told you what things would look like now, you would like freak out. So why is it that when things happen, I'm like, okay, so let me now move something else 5 years down the road and be like, but this hasn't happened yet. I feel like there's so much pressure now. And part of it is social media. People are like seeing everything that everybody's doing. And I'm like, I don't think we were ever meant to see this many people and how much they're
That's right.
doing. I feel like it has such an
Like
effect
you said,
on like
we
how
become
you think.
overstimulated.
Yes.
And honestly,
you weren't meant to see that much.
yeah, you have to be, you might have to be a Diani. You know, she's one of the most emotionally intelligent people I know.
Oh, she really
And
is.
like, it's very hard. People think they can think themselves out of things, or it won't affect me that bad.
Yeah.
Your brain is a very complex, delicate organ.
Oof.
And so I think you become so inundated with, like you said, all the things that you see.
Yeah.
If your esteem is not intact, if you are allowing negative thoughts to come and flood you, if you're looking at people and you're really leaning into envy, you're going to get yourself into a situation where now you have anxiety, depression. I'm not owning up. Your journey is your journey.
Yes.
It's not anybody else's. And there's so many different ways.
You can't expect them to look
Right.
alike.
You can't expect them to look alike. A simple example I used to use when I was in the classroom, and the students would be complaining about, man, my other teacher left. Now I got this new teacher. She's nothing like Miss Johnson. Of course she's not.
Because she's not Miss Johnson.
Because she's not Miss Johnson.
Right,
Just like,
right.
how fair would it be for me to look at you and expect Kim to be like Niecy? It would be unfair. So you have to really think of it that way. Like, we're constantly in this mode of comparison. And don't get me wrong, there's nothing wrong with looking and seeing like, oh, I like the way this person is moving. But you want to more so pull, what are their skill sets? What are the qualities? What is the knowledge that I need to gain to get myself on that level for what my superpower is?
Yes. Because instead it turns into, I'm not doing this, therefore I must.
Yes,
It
yes.
turns into that instead.
And we're speaking to each other as we're speaking about this.
Yeah, because I can get like that
Yeah,
sometimes.
and I can kind of get in my head about, I'm an overachiever. You know, I guess because when I was in school, I wasn't an underachiever, but I wasn't like really, you know, applying myself. But now sometimes I'm an overachiever, and I get somewhere, I'm like, man, but I should have a book by now.
Yeah.
I should have this by
You
now.
be doing this
and I
every
will
single
have
day.
the book.
Yeah.
But like, I have to pace myself. But for you, what frustrates me is like, you literally went from, you know, I don't know how many followers you had at first. I remember when you had 100,000, and it was like,
And bro's like, woo.
woo.
Like,
But then it was like, but then you would still be like, yeah, but you would kind of talk down
just
and
moving things around.
and then whenever you would get a new deal, I'm like, Shari, this is a really big deal. And then you would find something.
I always find something.
And it would drive
That's
me
when I was like,
crazy.
oh, well, I'm obviously the problem.
And so
It's
I
me.
would tell her, like, first of all, stop filling in the blanks. She would always fill in blanks of things that had not happened yet.
I'm like making stuff
If you're
up.
going to fill in the blanks, fill in some positive blanks.
Right?
Fill in some blanks that
Why
are
ain't
like
never feeling no positive blanks?
Fill in some things that are nurturing. They're going to propel you forward and
Yeah.
not keep you back. And sometimes I just be like, sit in this moment. It's okay
Yes.
to celebrate what you have
Yeah.
accomplished and still yet have more
Still
goals.
because I don't be celebrating for real. And but also I was gonna say there was something you said, I can't remember exactly what it was, about like seeing other people do stuff and being like, instead of looking at it, I was like, oh my gosh, because I'm not doing this, like I must suck. Like, what are they doing? Like, is it something that I admire? And because what I feel like when it comes to comparison, the narrative started to become like, well, social media is just a highlight reel and people are only posting their best moments. So you really don't know, which is true on one hand.
Mhm.
You really don't know everything that you're seeing is exactly what's happening.
Right.
And you could see good things, but people could still have other stuff going on. And the person that you see, it may not always be what you think it is out to be.
Right.
But I don't always love that perspective all the time, because it turns into, if you see somebody doing well, where they're not actually doing well, so I can feel better.
Right.
I think you just have to be okay with people doing well, period, and okay with like not comparing yourself to everything, period. Because some people are actually doing well, and that's going to have to be okay.
And I'm so glad you said that, because here's the other thing about that you have to be careful about social media.
Mhm.
It sucks you in to the point where you're so worried about how other people are doing. And here's what I know to be true. I was busy before, but I'm even more busy now. And when I tell you,
yeah.
I don't have time to think about
Yes.
what if what somebody
next
said is
person
true or not, if it's authentic or not.
Yeah.
Because I'm trying to build myself up. I'm trying to show up as the best version of myself.
Right.
And go after my goals and aspirations. So I think that's important, that it's a two-edged sword, Yes, it's entertaining, but it's like, not only are you caught up in their lives, but now you start to feel worse about your own.
Literally. And
Come on, you got to balance that thing out.
I think you have to start with like changing the way that you view things, and maybe how often, because it's a mixture of things. It's one, acknowledging that everything you're seeing might not be true, and then also acknowledging that you might be seeing a lot of stuff that's true, and somebody's life might be great. You'll have to be okay with that. You'll have to start changing how you look at it, because everything's happening. Everything's happening all the time.
And let's just say this too. And I think everything, like I said, I'm a balanced kind of person, but some people really need to have a social media purge. Like, you need to fast
Some people
from
is me.
social media. Like, some people is me. Sometimes you got to put the phone down. Like now I find that I do more social media now because of work, because of, what my career goals are and things of that nature. And so I'm finding now, like I was saying earlier, my eyes, like if I'm looking at the screen too long, it's starting to be too much for me, to where I want to put it down, and there's nothing wrong with checking in, but I do think that, of course, Gen Z, and especially Gen Alpha, they don't know a life without it.
Yeah.
So having that balance is going to be a little harder for me. I had a whole life without it.
Yeah.
So to me, it just adds to it. I am able to connect with people that I haven't talked to in a while. I'm able to see their grown kids people who I went to college with, students that I've taught who are like now 41, 42, doing very well. So you have to just make sure, check your own relationship with your digital, tools, and see, do you have, is it benefiting you?
Right.
More or hurting you more?
Yeah. You can do that on your phone now. Some people will modify like their screen time themselves to where like certain stuff like shuts off.
And you know what? And that takes
I
discipline.
probably should do that.
Do you know there's a such thing? I saw it in a Time article years ago. Yes, Shari, I read.
That's not going to keep coming up. That's not going to keep coming up. I
would
not
hope
trying
I
to
read
read you.
It was a Time article, and it was called Phantom Phone Syndrome, where it gets to the point where, and I was always trying to figure out, because phones is a big thing in education, a big distractor. A lot of kids are not learning because they're on their phone. But what will happen is, even when they're not looking at their phone, even when nothing is ringing, they'll look at it every few minutes because they feel like they got a call or they got a text.
It's a dopamine hit.
Yeah, it's a dopamine
when
hit.
You get a notification.
But the thing is, even when they don't get a notification, they think they actually got a notification and they're looking at it. And brain science shows, I'm just geeking out just for a second here, that with kids, usually their attention span is 1 minute for every year of their age. So if they're 15 minutes, you got them. Even if you tell them to put away their phone, they're still thinking about their phone.
Yeah.
So we're having to just move differently and respond to how the brain actually works, how it's interacting with, these digital devices.
Attention span is dead now.
Listen, it's rough, but here's what it is. It's highest. Here's what we are seeing in Gen Alpha and Gen Z, late Gen Z. The things that they are really passionate about, they can zone in for hours, just like they can zone in here.
I can see that.
So if it's dance, if it's music, any type of artistry, or whatever it is that's their thing, they can focus on that. But what ends up happening is, and I see that in my own 15-year-old, the things that he doesn't care about, it's like,
that's it.
It's like trying to
it's like, because I be trying to tell him like life is full of things that you just got to end up doing.
Right.
You're not going to care about all of it.
Their push through, their grit as it relates to the things they don't care about, even those things they need to do, is not as strong.
Yeah.
As for the things they absolutely love.
You know what? I had also read something about that. A lot of them like feel like life is pointless. So when it comes to, which I feel bad for them because in a lot of ways I can't blame them for thinking that. Like they're inundated with media in a way that I wasn't when I was younger. And they're seeing like some of the worst stuff. So a lot of them feel like there is not a point to any of this.
And you know what? And it's really sad because like a lot of times we tend to blame like the current, most recent generation, but the generation before them or generation before that raised them. And so we have a responsibility. I remember this video I used to show by Simon Sinek. He's like a thought leader. He's a really powerful guy, but he just talks about like, as parents, you really do have the responsibility to regulate their phone usage because it literally becomes like, like you said, dopamine. But he says,
you know how I feel about teens and phones.
I know.
Take them away.
You can talk about that. But he said, letting the phone stay like in a child's room, even a teenager's room overnight is like sitting an alcoholic in front of a bar. Like, because they're constantly hitting it. And so you got some kids who they can't even focus because they've been on their phone all night. Some of them go to sleep on FaceTime with a friend, a boyfriend, or what have you. So it's a double whammy. Now they're tired, but the rest that they needed, they're not getting.
Yeah.
And it causes more anxiety. That's what the studies are showing. So like, I'm saying all that to say, as parents, you got to be okay with being the bad guy. And I used to tell y'all that all the time. Remember that?
Yeah, I get it.
Like,
I get it.
Because a lot of the time I was a single parent. Let's see, I got divorced when your sister was 10, you were 7, right? But even before that, we were separated.
Yeah.
And I understood. I signed up to be the bad guy.
Yes.
Especially if it meant doing what was best for you. And sometimes that means finding out what your currency is. So if your currency was your phone, then Rachel was pulling it.
Yeah.
And I'm going
to
get that phone, and I would gauge it,
Yeah.
until how long you going to keep it? I don't need to tell you that. I just need to see the desired behavior.
Right. Because parents always say the whole like, it's them phones, it's that phone. I'll see posts on the internet. It's like growing up is realizing like it really is that phone.
It really is that phone.
Is.
You know what?
And I'm so glad, and I think I've told you this before. I am so glad that LJ growing up, like, I mean, part of that is because of his own doing. But that he didn't really grow up with a phone for real. He is a different kid.
He had a phone at 11, but didn't have a phone at 11.
But didn't have a phone. He never got to hold on to that phone for real because he was
consequences,
trifling. But it benefited him in the best way, and I hope he realizes it. But when I like look at the things that he used to do when he was like 11, 12, 13, the way he used to he like played up until like still. When I look at like other teenagers and they're like doing stuff, they're on their phone. And I'm like, what is LJ doing if he doesn't have his phone? Because there are a lot of times where he doesn't have it. I'm like, what do he be doing? I go in his room. Oh, I was writing this. Oh, I was playing my piano.
He was reading.
Oh, I was doing that.
There was time he would go outside and play basketball. He'd be outside playing like he's on a field.
Yes. He would still do make-believe games.
Yeah.
And I guess somebody could say that sounds childish, but no, I think that's so important.
It sparked his creativity.
Like imagination is going to die. It's going to die if you don't if you have something to always go to. He had to think of stuff.
Yeah.
I'm a firm believer in this. I feel like people would never even think this about me. You like gotta like let kids be bored. I really do think that. The constant stimulation is killing their creativity.
I agree.
Not that you can't get inspiration from things online, because you certainly can. But always having something to stimulate your brain, it like takes you out of having to be the one to stimulate your brain.
And it also promotes like there's something dangerous about always getting what you want. Yeah,
instant gratification.
You want that instant gratification, and it's now like your desire becomes insatiable. You're never happy, and when you get something, okay, I got it. Like, what's the next thing? So to your point, talking
Yes.
about community, it's like the phone has become community. So if you want community, you have to take initiative.
You got to go out and
that
do
community.
it. You have to go out and
Wow,
do it.
this was great conversation per use.
Did Deani wrap you up and I didn't see?
Yes.
Dang, how have I never seen
I just need you to follow
it?
my lead because I don't want to have to do this.
I do follow your lead every time.
Oh yeah, that's
though.
great. But I'm saying I don't want to have to do this so you
have
can
never
see
had
it.
to do that.
The reason why I said that is
even
because
last time you didn't have to do that. You said, "Well, that was good." I said, "Yep, bye."
Right, that's what I wanted you to do this time.
Well, no, you said
But you stopped and said, did Deani say wrap up? Let's say that after we say bye.
Okay, but I just wanted to know if that's why you did it.
Petit, c'est putain. You gotta wait.
Not too much. Anyway.
So this is So Tell Me This.
And we'll see. So Tell Me This Sunday. Say it
I
again.
was gonna say that, but you jumped right in. I paused it.
So you were gonna say, so this is So Tell Me This.
You know what happened?
Sundays? You weren't gonna say that.
No, what happened was,
no.
Let me tell you what happened. I was pausing to see, should I say Sundays or should I not say Sundays? And then just when I was going to say it, then you jumped in. So I'll try this again, okay? My gosh, today. So this is So Tell Me This Sundays. I'm Rachel.
I'm Shari, and we'll see you next Sunday.
Bye.